Was the man who told you what the survey said. Former Family Feud host Richard Dawson has died. His family says he was battling esophageal cancer. The star of game shows, including Family Feud, Match Game, and comedies like Hogan's Heroes, dead at the age of 79. Joining us now to talk more about it, TV Guide entertainment editor Matt Roush. And Matt, I guess the first thought I had was you really couldn't have a game show host like Richard Dawson these days, could you?
Well, hard to say. I mean, the thing is, the game shows aren't what they used to be. Back in the day when he was head of Family Feud, there were many, many more of that sort around, and now it's a sort of a specialized breed. But, you know, he was more of a personality in many regards. I mean, in that regards, he was, you know, sort of debonair and playful, sometimes seemed half looped, you know, especially on the Match Game. I mean, that show was just so Looney Tunes anyway. But his sort of affectionate attitude towards the female guests on Family Feud always got people sort of more into the show, I believe, than they were in the later incarnations. But he just had sort of a fun attitude, didn't take it too seriously. He was just sort of an odd figure anyhow, because he kind of came to our attention being on that most peculiar of sitcoms from the 60s, Hogan's Heroes, set in a Nazi prison of war camp. Still boggles the mind that ever was a hit show. But yeah, so he sort of had a sort of peculiar place in the hierarchy of game show hosts, but he was always fun to watch, and he sort of brought sort of that comic edge to it, whether it was Family Feud and certainly on Match Game, where it was more about being a wit and sort of being very irreverent, which was his style.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is the fact that he did like kiss every single female contestant that was on Family Feud, and almost did seem like he might have had a couple knocked back backstage before he went on there. I mean, it really shows you that it really was a different time in television back then.
Well, it was, and if you were watching TV at that time, as I believe you were and I was, there was something kind of addictive about it, and he was just fun to watch. And like I said, it was more about the personality even in the game in some regards, and it never really seemed the same after he left it. So, I mean, I think there are still incarnations of that thing floating around, but it just isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, certainly not. And this news about Richard Dawson comes on the heels of on the death of another star of a show that just ended just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, one of my favorite character actors passed away this weekend as well, Catherine Houston. Not exactly a household name, but you would know her if you saw her. And she came to fame on The West Wing playing the president's secretary, Mrs. Lanningham. That's how a lot of people think of her, as Mrs. Lanningham. She's like the mother hen you always wanted, sort of cantankerous, but that was sort of her attitude. But if you saw her on sitcoms, she was on many of those. But West Wing, I think, really made her famous. And when they killed her character off in surprise, it led to one of the greater episodes of the series, when Martin Sheen sort of railed to the gods. And then she found more fame, and she won 2 Emmys playing the next-door neighbor, Mrs. McCluskey, on Desperate Housewives. And she was battling lung cancer both on the show and in real life. And her death scene in the finale of Desperate Housewives just a few weeks ago was one of the more powerful moments of that finale. So again, she was just a really familiar and great face. And I've talked to her a couple of times because I just singled her out sometimes as one of the great scene stealers on television. And she loved this. She didn't become an actor until she was in her 40s. And I think she really enjoyed the fact that she got to sort of make a name for herself.
Well, sad news all around. Cancer taking a couple of stars of television this weekend. Matt Roush, thanks for talking to us about it. We appreciate it.
Oh, you bet.
Matt Roush is the entertainment editor at TV Guide. Again, the breaking news out of Los Angeles. Former Family Feud host from the 70s and early 80s, Richard Dawson, dead at the age of 79.